Hey everyone, KryptoCal here, and welcome to the next episode of FTB Skies. So unfortunately, this episode's going to be a little bit weird. I just went to start editing this episode and realized that pretty much all of the game recording and mic audio is completely gone. It's just basically silent video footage of me just doing a bunch of stuff, and unfortunately a lot of it does require a little bit of explaining as to what I was doing, so I'm going to go ahead and do my best to do a bit of a voiceover in terms of what was happening in each clip, and unfortunately for most of the episode it is going to be like that, so I apologize in advance. These things happen and we're just going to have to work through it, so I hope you guys still enjoy this episode. If you do, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and let's get right into it. Hello everyone, welcome into the next episode of FTB Skies, and you're joining me as a loot bee has just spawned in the world, and I kind of am interested to see what this ends up dropping for us. And we can tell that it has some loot to drop still because it is glowing like this. So that means that it does have some loot that it will be dropping. Once it finishes dropping loot, it will actually stop glowing. So that's how you know when it's done dropping loot. Then we got a diamond, nice. And a force gem, very cool. Emerald, and anything else cool? Oh, a cyan flower from Botania, nice, okay. And one more thing, a superstitious hat, that's very cool. That actually gives us an extra level of luck. So we can go ahead and apply that, and it looks like he's done. So let's go ahead and try this on. Take the villager hat off, of course, and that looks pretty goofy. I think I'm gonna turn that off. I think it's a little weird looking, so we're gonna keep that off just like so, but very cool. We got some nice loot from the bee. And now that we've completed the loot bee quest, all we have left to do in this quest book is to get a fishing rod made, and we're essentially done with the getting started tab. Just grab some string and a couple sticks here. We can go ahead and just craft one up, and that is the final quest line, and we are all done. Get some extra rewards here, but that is effectively it for the getting started section. And as part of that quest reward, we actually got some floral fertilizer here, and that's actually really cool because then we can use this to get a bunch of flowers from Botania, which we're actually going to do a little bit of today. What we can do is come over here and just get ourselves the floral fertilizer out, and then just right click on the grass, and we get a bunch of these different Botania flowers. So we can keep right clicking and get a whole bunch of them. And then once we've used all of our floral fertilizer up, we can go ahead and just vein mine all them up, and then we'll have a ton of flowers. And that is an absolute ton of different colors, which is amazing. Something we can craft to help us out with storing these flowers is called the flower pouch. Now, to get a little bit of wool here, I actually got some of these energetic sheep eggs from some quest rewards. So I think what we can come and do is put some of these guys down. If we get a pair of shears here, we can come back over and shear these sheep. Oh, a range shield, that's very cool. This will actually completely disable rain around the range shield. Well, I'll definitely have to take a look at those. That's really cool, actually. So we can go ahead and just place the range shield down somewhere. I'm just trying to look for a spot to place it. That's not a good spot. Maybe we'll just put it somewhere just in the central area by the bed. There we go. And that should prevent rain from ever happening around our area. Well, that gave us a ton of wool for actually shearing that sheep that first time, so that's really cool. So now we can craft up this flower pouch, and now if we right click on it in our inventory, we can open it and put all the Botania flowers inside, just like so. Now, the main Botania flower that we're going to need for right now is actually the white flower, the white petals, because those are what we're going to need to get into the mod. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just grab some of these petals out, these white petals, place them down, and then we can actually use normal bone meal to grow them up. And then once we shear them with some shears, they'll actually give us the big flowers in return, which go right into our flower pouch, and then we can grab them out and turn them into even more petals to keep duplicating them over and over again. Now, getting started in Botania requires us to get something called a petal apothecary. Let's get one of these crafted up. Let's put it right down by some water here because we will need to keep refilling it with water every time we want to do a craft. And you also need to have a seed. So what we can do is basically place in 4 white petals and then 1 normal seed to make something called a pure daisy. Ooh, this wandering trader actually has really good trades. He has this pair of diamond pants with protection 5 on them. Let's go ahead and grab some emeralds out and see if we can buy those. And that is a really good pair of diamond leggings that we can run with for a long time. So now that we have this pure daisy, I want to turn this into something called a floating pure daisy. The floating flowers are nice because you can kind of place them anywhere you want. You can place them down pretty much on anything. They don't have to be placed on grass. But in this case, it's not a huge deal, but I just want to do it just because we have the stuff to. Now, in order to make the floating pure daisy, we have to first make a floating other colored flower. And in order to do that, we need to get a glimmering flower. And that's just by combining one normal flower with 2 glowstone dust, which is very easy for us to do. Once we have the floating yellow flower, we can just add the pure daisy, and that will then convert it into a floating pure daisy. So how do the pure daisies work? Well, let's go ahead and place down, we have 2 pure daisies right here. If we place one down like so, and then the next one we can place down, leaving 2 blocks in between, just like this. If we place down some logs and some stone surrounding these pure daisies, they're going to start converting into special Botania type materials called living wood and living stone. If we have our particles on, you can see that this is kind of glimmering like it's doing the conversion, and it's not the fastest process in the world, so it does take a little bit of time, but slowly but surely this will convert over. And there we go, there's the living rock starting to convert, and then soon to follow will be the living wood, which it is perfect. Let's go ahead and grab both sets of these. We have 8 of each, which is I think going to be enough to get us started, but we will go ahead and put some more down because we will need to get plenty more of this in the future. Now, the first thing we have to craft is a mana pool. Now, this is something that we actually use to store mana inside of, which is very important. The next thing we have to craft after this is something called the mana spreader. Now, that's what actually converts what the flowers produce into mana, and it actually will send that mana into the mana pool to be used. Now, Botania also has a tool that is used in the mod, and it's kind of similar to like a wrench would be in a tech mod, but it's actually called the Wand of the Forest. To make a Wand of the Forest, we have to go ahead and make 3 of these living wood twigs, and then also get 2 petals of any color from the mod, and then all those craft into the Wand of the Forest. The Wand of the Forest is how you do a bunch of the linking and connecting of flowers and mana spreaders and all sorts of stuff, so it's a very important tool to have. To connect the mana spreader and the mana pool, what you have to do is just shift right click on the mana spreader, and then also shift right click on the mana pool. And now we can see that it's kind of facing into the mana pool, so it's ready to start sending mana. Now, in order to start producing mana, we actually have to create a flower that will do the producing of mana for us. And we're going to do that in the form of an endo flame. Endo flames are crafted with red, light gray, and brown petals. And endo flames essentially will take any consumable fuel like coal and convert and eat that coal pretty much and convert it into mana. They're not the fastest flowers in the world for mana production, but they're a great starting off point for getting some early game mana. Now, if we're holding the Wand of the Forest, we can see that all of these endo flames are connected to this one mana spreader once we've placed them down beside them on the grass here. And so because they're all linked up, once they start receiving some coal, that mana spreader will start to take that endo flames product and turning it into mana. And as we can see here, if we place down some blocks of coal and turn my magnet off, we can go ahead and have these endo flames start to burn, and then the mana spreader should start sending mana to the pool. And you can see that there is a little bit of mana inside of our mana pool. And the whole reason that we were going ahead and getting some mana production started is for one reason right now, and that is to get a mineral sapling, which can only be made by mana infusion. So we have to go ahead and grab an oak sapling out of here. And if we go ahead and toss this oak sapling into the mana pool, we'll actually get a mineral sapling back out. And the mineral sapling is going to be our gateway into getting into the integrated dynamics mod, which is going to be the way we're going to have an early game storage system. And now that we have the amethyst mesh inside of our netherrack sifting setup, we have quite a bit of netherite scrap ready to go now. So that's actually going to be really great to be able to use some netherite going forward. And I do want to craft up some of this netherite scrap into netherite ingots right away, because I want to use netherite barrels in the storage system that I have planned out for this early game. Unfortunately, we also need to get some obsidian, and the problem with obsidian right now is we don't have a really great source of infinite lava. One way we can get obsidian, which isn't the easiest or the most efficient way, but something we can maybe do, is we can convert some of this blaze powder into blaze mesh, which can then be turned into obsidian using the pure daisies we just made. And obviously this is going to take 9 of the blaze powder per mesh, so it's definitely not the most efficient, because we can technically make 1 bucket of lava for 4 of those, but That way we can do it in bulk a little bit faster. We have plenty of blaze powder anyway, so I'm not too concerned about that. And hopefully that'll get us enough obsidian to get going. So let's start getting into integrated dynamics if we can. The first thing that we need is a drying basin and a squeezer. For the drying basin, all we need is some logs, which can be any logs, some black dye, and 2 iron ingots. And we also have the squeezer from another episode. So let's go ahead and put this down over here and the drying basin right beside. So what we're going to do is just basically squeeze this mineral log to create the mineral resin, and that'll then go into the drying basin and start to dry into a block of crystallized mineral, which can then be converted into the crystallized mineral chunks, which is what we need to get started. And I actually want to upgrade to the mechanical squeezer, but to make the mechanical squeezer, we need to make first some of these batteries, which are easy enough, just a bunch of the crystallized mineral, and we can go ahead and craft the mechanical squeezer up very easily. As long as we export power from our battery, that should start to fill up with energy. There we go. Now we have some power in here. Perfect. So if we go ahead and put the mineral logs inside of here, this will very easily and automatically generate the chunks and also the mineral resin for us, which is great because we're going to need an absolute ton of this stuff for getting into the mod. We also need to get a little bit of the mineral glass, which is made by just putting a piece of normal glass inside of the drying basin with the fluid inside. And I'm going to keep replanting these saplings as I need them because we're going to need more and more all the time. So now what I want to do is upgrade some of these diamond barrels to obsidian barrels, which is just using 4 pieces of obsidian. So let's go ahead and get a few of those done up. It looks like we're going to be able to do about 8 right now. The way that we can actually go ahead and get a little more lava is by using the Magma Crucible from thermal expansion. And the machine casings take some tin and glass and iron, which is all stuff that we have access to. But I'm getting tired of relying on our slow furnaces to smelt raw materials because we're getting an absolute ton of raw materials now, and we just have no real way to smelt them up fast. So I think what we're going to do is just do a quick side pivot here, and I think we'll be able to get ourselves a little smelting setup from Create very, very easily. All we should need is a water wheel. We'll get some water flowing underneath of it, and that'll start to blow the fan forward, which is perfect. So now if we just place a block at the very end, like a stopping block, all we have to do is just surround an area that we can put a bucket of lava in, and then that wind it's generating will start to be very, very hot, which will then smelt any items that we put right on this block. So if we put the lava down right here, so if we take all the raw stuff that we're smelting out of our furnaces here, and if we go back over to our setup, we'll see that all of this is slowly starting to cook. And where this setup really shines is by smelting full stacks of items, because it smelts a stack of items so fast, and you can have multiple stacks of items just sitting in front of the fire at the same time. So you can be cooking up multiple stacks of material all at once. Now that we have all these materials smelted up, we can start to get ourselves the things we're going to need to make the machine. So there are a couple of machines from thermal that we actually want to make right now. The first one that we're going to make is the pulverizer. The pulverizer essentially will then crush down ingots into their dust form, which is very useful for making different blends of materials. What we can do is basically make a little bit of this invar. Once we have some invar, we can go ahead and make the induction smelter. The induction smelter makes it very easy for us to then go ahead and make multiple different types of alloys in the future, which we're going to need. Now there is also one item that I do want to make now that we have a bunch of different types of resources, a temporal pouch. The temporal pouch essentially works very similarly to how the time in a bottle works, if you are familiar with that mod. And it essentially lets us just tick accelerate any block that we want. And as you hold the temporal pouch in your inventory, it starts to gain grains of time, and it just counts up as it sits in your inventory. So effectively what it does is it lets you bottle up time, and when you want to spend it to increase the speed of certain machines or processes or whatever, it lets you spend that extra time. So we can go ahead now and craft up the Magma Crucible, and this is what we're going to be using to make the lava. So we'll go ahead and put this down right up front here. And now if we get a little bit of netherrack out of our chest and put it inside of the Magma Crucible, we'll see that this starts to very slowly generate some lava, but this is going to be going very slowly. So we're going to want to get a couple of upgrades for this. What we can actually do is pipe the lava out of the Magma Crucible into a pedestal with the material generator upgrade. And as long as there's a piece of crying obsidian underneath, it will actually consume that lava and turn it very easily into obsidian. So it basically just takes out the step of having to take out the lava, place it down manually, and turning it into obsidian. it just does it automatically for us. Now that we have an infinite source of obsidian, more or less, let's go ahead and make some more of these obsidian barrels and turn them into netherite barrels, which is very awesome. These have a ton of storage space, like absolutely a massive storage space. So it's going to be very nice for us having a beginning storage setup. Now there's a couple of things that I need to craft up from integrated dynamics before we start getting into the mod. So first off, we need to get some cables. So let's go ahead and craft up some logic cables, just some crystallized mineral chunks and redstone. We're also going to need an item interface. This is what lets us basically hook up different inventories into our network. And these again are also just more crystallized mineral chunks with a chest. So we're going to go ahead and make a bunch of these up. And we get 4 per craft, so that's actually very good. We'll get like 16 or so, maybe even 20. There we go. And now we also have to craft up an item importer. This is going to go onto the inventory that we're going to dump things into to put them back into our system. And then the last thing that we need is essentially a panel to be able to access all of our items through. And that panel is called the storage terminal. So let's start by making a beginning testing setup just somewhere in the middle of the island. So what we can do is basically place a netherite barrel down, place an item interface onto the netherite barrel, and then what we can do is just hook up a logic cable to that item interface and then put the panel right on the front. If I can find the panel, there we go. And now we should have access to that inventory. So we can see all the items that are going to be in the storage. So if we go ahead and put down, say, this redstone inside here, we can now see that the redstone is going to be accessed. And we can hook up so many different inventories to this one network. It's actually crazy. And we could use the crafting terminal here to essentially craft using all of our inventories that are connected. It's very similar to like refined storage or AE2, but this is just a very beginner friendly, low cost. It doesn't require any power. It just works by itself, which is awesome. So now if we have all 3 of these hooked up, we should be able to have all 3 barrels here being viewed by this one terminal. Now, if we place a chest down here and say we want this to be our import chest, we can go ahead and put the item importer onto that chest. And then any items that we dump into that chest here right up front will go somewhere in our storage. Now you have to make one small change to the item importer here. You have to go ahead and craft up a variable card. The variable card has to go into the import all items slot. And now anything put inside of this chest will import into the system, and it doesn't have any filters. Just any item that goes in there will go somewhere into our network. And all of these item interfaces also have priorities. So we can set a higher priority to one barrel, and that'll basically force all the items to try and go into the highest priority barrel first before going into all the other ones. Just make sure you hit the save button on the priority before you go ahead and press off, because if you don't, it will not save. So just make sure you go ahead and do that. And now every item that we're dumping into here should all go into that first barrel, which it does. Perfect. But now that we have even more obsidian, we can go ahead and make even more obsidian barrels, which we can then convert into the netherite barrels. So we can get even more of these, and hopefully these will be enough to start setting up a pretty good sized storage system. And it looks like it is raining, or the rain shield is actually blocking the rain. And I'm kind of curious to see what the radius of this is. Oh, so we do have some rain on the very edge, but that's a substantial range for just the one block. That's crazy. So effectively, if we go ahead and craft a couple of those, we're basically going to be set to not have rain on the entire island. So I have plans to make the center of this island our main storage area. And I've marked this out with a piece of glowstone. And I think what we're going to do is just try and build some sort of storage system around this central area. But in combination with all these netherite barrels, I also want to have a combination of drawers in this setup as well. So what we're going to do is craft up the drawer controller. This is the heart of any drawer storage system. Let's go ahead and make one of these very quickly. And it gives us a bunch of different upgrades and some tools, which is very cool. This is what we actually use to add drawers to our system. We also want to craft up this second tool, which is the locking tool. So let's go ahead and just take out this glowstone here, place down our drawer controller right there, just to show it's right in the middle. And our barrel up front will be our input barrel. Next, we want to put the importer on the side of the barrel like this and connect it up with a cable. But we're also going to want to add a bunch of the netherite barrels here. Now, I do want the middle spot to be saved for our panel. So let's go ahead and remove this one really quickly. But then we're going to basically just take the netherite barrels and come all the way around. We'll go ahead and place a cable down like this and the storage panel can go right up front, like so. Make sure we have this importing correctly, and now we can go ahead and put all the item interfaces in the back and hook them all up with a cable. And we're actually going to want to add some more barrels right now. So let's go ahead and put some more netherite barrels on the backs of these cables, just like so. And we can effectively fill in this entire back with barrels, just like this, and make sure they have some of the item interfaces on all the faces as well, so that we can see them in our system. That is an absolute ton of storage. That is amazing. But we are going to want to, of course, add some drawers to this setup, because just having a bunch of barrels is not going to be an efficient way of storing large quantities of items. So if we have a ton of like cobblestone or something, we're going to want to have drawers for those specific items. I want to make some custom drawers because you can actually use these framed drawers that are also aesthetically pleasing. So to make a framed drawer, what you have to do is craft up the framed drawer to begin with, and then the top left slot of the crafting grid needs to be what the trim material wants to be, and then the top middle slot has to be what the front face of the drawer wants to be, and that's effectively how you make a custom drawer. And you can mix and match an absolute ton of different materials for this, so have fun, play around, and try something cool. So before we start placing drawers down, let's go ahead and shift right click on our storage controller with our main linking tool, just so that we have that selected before we cover it all up. And now we're going to go ahead and place these drawers down on the sides of the barrels, because we don't actually need to access the barrels at all. All we have to do is be able to see them in our storage system. We'll place the drawers on all three sides of the storage system here, and we'll keep the front face open. So now we have a nice little square. I'm actually going to go ahead and do one more layer of drawers here, just to kind of add a little extra storage, because we do have plenty of room anyway, so we might as well. And now that we have these drawers placed down, we have to link all the drawers up. So if we take our linking tool out here, we can go ahead and make sure that it's on the adding feature, and then just right click on every single drawer that we want. Now there's a weird lighting glitch going on here, and I do have a solution to this, and I will show how this is actually solved in a moment. But for now, let's go ahead and link this. If you shift right click, you can actually link multiple drawers just by dragging across all the drawers. So that's actually a really easy way to link all of them up very fast. And then we can come in here and take our linking tool and actually use the locking feature to lock all the drawers, so that nothing will automatically get put into the drawers unless we intentionally want it to go in. So we actually have to place the item into the drawer first. So to solve the lighting glitch, what you have to do is come to your instance folder. So once you're at your instance folder here, you can just select the instance you're playing in and go into the config folder, and then scroll all the way down until you find the Forge client folder. And you can open this in whatever program you want. I'm using the Notepad program. And what you want to do is find the setting that says Experimental Forge Light Pipeline Enabled. And that has to be set to true. And that actually will help get rid of the lighting glitches that you'll see on those drawers. So make sure you go ahead and change that, save, and then you can relaunch your game. And just like that, we can see that we have no more lighting glitches here. We are all good to go. We could even add a couple more netherite barrels if we wanted to right here, which I might go ahead and do really quickly. Now that I think about it, I actually might take out this netherite barrel. I know I just put it in, but I'm going to actually replace it with something else. In the functional storage mod, there is also this item called the Armory Cabinet. So the Armory Cabinet stores non-stackable items. You can't actually access it without it being attached to a different inventory. So for example, if I put this in here like so, this will effectively be storage for all unstackable items. Yes, the Armory Cabinet can hold 4,096 unstackable items. You cannot access it manually, only through automation. So what's an unstackable item that we have? Let's say it's this shovel right here. If I right click in with this shovel, I can't actually access it at all, but I can increase the priority on this to say 5. So this Armory Cabinet should always accept the unstackable items before they go into the netherite barrels. So let's just test that very quick by dumping in a diamond shovel. Yes, it is in the Armory Cabinet. We cannot pull it out manually by right clicking or anything, but we can come in here and see that it's in here and grab it this way. So that's going to help keep our barrels nice and clean from all the unstackable items that we're inevitably going to get. There's just a ton of unstackable items that we have in this inventory over here that I can't wait to get rid of. Then they will have a home, like all of these fire sources, for example, will get nicely sorted into the Armory Cabinet. So this is effectively going to be our early to mid-game storage solution until we get into a different storage mod, like refined storage or applied energistics. So I do have a design that I have made up in my creative world for this build, and I think it looks pretty awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and gather the materials that I need for this build, and I'm going to let it build in the form of a time lapse. On second thought, I'm actually going to go ahead and change out the front of the drawers. I realize that this is actually going to be probably a little bit dark inside the building once this is all built around this. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I want to add probably a lighter front face to these drawers, but keep the dark oak trim. And here we go. This is the design I want to go with for these drawers, and that is going to be hopefully a lot brighter. Let's go place these back down and see what they look like. Oh yeah, that's much better. Okay, that's going to be exactly what I want. So that's going to be good. Let's get 4 high on those. That looks really nice and clean. All right, I finished gathering up the materials that we are going to need for this build. A lot of the materials here are just wood items. A lot of this stuff is very easy to get in large quantities like the slabs. So we have everything we need right here. So I'm going to go ahead and start the cannon up and let's see what happens. Okay, so this is the finished build. I love the way this came together. I hope the time lapse worked okay. I was having a couple of issues with some of the recording, so I unfortunately I did lose part of the recording, but I still need to put a floor in here. Obviously, I do have a plan for the floor, but there is also an upstairs to this building as well, which I have to add in. Now, I did want to add a way that we can get up here very easily, and the way I want to do that is by putting an elevator in. These elevators are actually very awesome. They just require some wool and an ender pearl, so I can go ahead and place one of these down right here. So the matching one would be around the back here, probably right about here. And that should take us up to the second floor. So we can just go ahead and press the crouch button to go up and down. So we can go down like this, and then press the jump button to go up. And here it is, the finished build. Looking at it here, I have it nice and centered with our island, which I think looks amazing here, and I can't wait to keep building in this style. I absolutely love the palette that I've got going on here, and obviously the entirety of this island is going to be connected by paths. Now, I have the tedious process of going through all of my storage and figuring out what is worth putting in a drawer and what just needs to go inside of the barrel. But anyways, everyone, thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to join the Discord if you haven't already. But that's going to be it for me, everybody. I hope you all have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.